JK was seen allegedly wearing a MAGA Hat remix. People are saying that JK was removed from an article that was associated with BTS, and then we have some stocks that have changed at the label. So hey Dumplings, this is David Desai. Let's get into it. There was an article that came out recently that got people pretty excited and also shocked, and it talked about the label reaching an all-time stock high, a high that they hadn't reached in about 2 years. So I think this was around the time that the boys started to go into the military. So they were essentially getting the stock back to that point right before they went to the military. And I can only expect the stock is expected to go up once the boys start doing their comeback and stuff. And I would imagine if it doesn't go up the first time, it might go up the second comeback if the first one ends up being really successful. Keep in mind, this is not financial advice, and this is not telling you to invest in any particular stock or anything like that. To me, this is just a thought that I have, and it's a conclusion that I think most people could draw. But it's not one that is based on accurate financial predictions, or it's coming from someone who is a financial analyst. So don't base any of your investment decisions on just this thought. Please do your own research and seek professional advice. A lot of people are expecting that the comeback and all of the things that are happening with the BTS members are going to be huge, and a lot of stuff is already happening right now, just literally a day after the boys came back from the military. We had the V and Jennie rumors sparking back up again, and we have JK and J-Hope's concert and performing, and that was a huge deal that made several headlines today, as a lot of people were feeling like the BTS members really just came back. I can only imagine how exhausting it might have been to go from the military right into a performance. However, this likely was something that JK really wanted to do, and thus went right into doing it. I am very excited for the boys to come back. I know the community has been waiting for years. I've definitely been waiting the same amount of time, and I'm just excited for the news stories to come out. I'm excited for new things to come out, and I'm excited to talk about new things. And of course, I'm excited about all of the opportunities to see the boys perform and all that stuff. And it really takes me back when I see JK performing at J-Hope's concert. All I could feel like was I was back in like 2021 or 2022. It doesn't even feel like it's something that happened in recent days, because it's a little bit strange to see that. It's almost nostalgic, and it's very weird feeling, and I wonder if anyone else feels the same way. JK also looks the same, and that's not a surprise either, because he was already really buff before he went into the military, so he probably was the one that changed the least coming out of the military. But saying all of this, it's no surprise that the stock would go back up, as a lot of people have a lot of faith in the boys, in the comeback, in the agency, and they believe that the summer is going to be huge, and thus they believe that this is their opportunity to make money. Or some people probably just want to pour money into it because they believe that that's going to help the boys come back. And I think it will too, because I think when the label sees that there are a lot of people that are pouring money into the label, and they're believing that it's because of BTS, they might opt to put more money into BTS's comeback, like the label might opt to do that. And I believe what will happen from this is people who are investing will see that the label has this much faith in BTS and is putting this huge amount of money for music videos or for a promotion. They'll end up purchasing more stock because they believe the comeback will be even bigger. So it's a perpetual circle. And I've mentioned this before, stock is all very much about perception, and it's about if the public perception believes that a company is doing well. So all the company really needs to do is make it appear as if BTS is doing really well right now, even if the comeback flops. But it won't flop, it will do really well. I personally believe that, but again, this is not financial advice at all. I don't know anything about actually investing, nor do I believe I've ever accurately predicted stocks. So take my stuff with a grain of salt. News articles have been flooding the internet literally just a day after the boys have had a comeback. And it's not even stuff that the boys are doing, but just news articles talking about the boys. So I'm wondering if behind the scenes, maybe even just a few days prior to the boys coming out of the military, if they did do any interviews or things like that. I'm not entirely sure. Someone from Vogue wrote an article about JK, and it was a subsidiary of Vogue. This article itself didn't actually have an interview portion of JK. I don't believe that this person formally sat down with him, but perhaps was just writing an article in general. And the article was a little bit of a synopsis on what this person's book was going to be about JK. So this was going to be an entire book about JK and his progression out of BTS. The article also references a previous book that the author wrote that was called The Meaning of Jungkook, The Triumph of BTS and Making a Global Pop Superstar. The book can be interpreted as several different things, such as his journey in BTS and then being a global pop star, or that it could be interpreted as him coming out of BTS, which some people have interpreted as him leaving BTS. I think the boys have been wildly successful in their own right as solo members, but if I were to say collectively, have the boys been more popular than BTS as a group, I believe the answer is no. There's definitely a lot of recognition with JK in the US, as he's collaborated with a lot of American stars and all that stuff, but in terms of impact, I think the BTS boys as a group have definitely contributed way more to that than each solo individual member. There is definitely an interesting story with each of the BTS members and their rise to stardom as a solo member, but that is a very different story than saying that they've outgrown BTS as a whole. And I'm not saying that this author actually said that, but I'm saying that for those who believe that this is a true thing, I want to say that I don't personally believe it. And of course, it's really difficult to rise outside of what you're initially known for. It will always follow you, and typically it's what people know you for. So they're typically going to be more used to that. This is why it's almost better for an artist who is just starting to mimic another artist's style, because the public is more likely to take you in and accept you when you feel like you're familiar already. So for example, JK did a lot of Michael Jackson as well as the early 2000s sound, which a lot of people found to be really familiar to them, and made it really easy to connect with him. He also had a really popular American singer on almost every single track that he produced, and that further pushed him into American stardom as people felt even more familiar with him. And that's really just a tactic that a lot of celebrities use to break into the market, and he really did that really successfully. And is one of the things that BTS can't do is stuff like that. And they definitely did do it, but it's difficult for them because there are 7 people. So it was harder for them to break into the US market, yet we saw amazing hits like Butter, Permission to Dance, and Dynamite, which have exceeded, I believe, any of these solo members' stuff. So I don't believe that JK was being talked about in a way that was forcibly removing him from the group, nor do I think that he is someone that most people truly believe has outgrown the group or should leave the group. But this is not the only thing that JK has been in the news for. After JK's recent appearance, he was seen wearing a hat that said "Make Tokyo Great Again." Obviously, this plays on the whole Trump's "Make America Great Again." And obviously, there was a huge controversy with this because a lot of people were saying, oh, it looks like he's supporting Trump and various different things. But I wanted to look into this to really understand where the controversy was coming from, and if it was just coming from the MAGA portion of people being upset because making Tokyo great again would have its own political meaning outside of it being a remix of Trump's hat. And then of course it makes sense that JK would not understand the historic or political meaning behind Trump or whatever, right? Because he's not in the US and he probably doesn't keep up with American politics. Why would he? However, I did discover that there is a history of imperialism in Tokyo and Japan in general. So Make Tokyo Great Again is also a statement that a lot of Japanese people could not love. So now I fully understand what the controversy is. And it's twofold here. So people are upset over it just being a remix of a controversial political figure, but also it being a commentary on Japanese history, specifically its colonial rule over Korea from 1940 to 1945, I believe. And there was a whole thing of annexing Korea at the time, and so a lot of people see it as specifically controversial that a Korean person is wearing this hat. And some people believe that it was JK's PR team that thought it might be edgy to wear something like this. JK since then has apologized for wearing the hat, saying he wasn't fully aware, and he takes all of the criticism that will be directed towards him on this, and that he has quickly since then disposed of the hat and will not wear it again. And we can't always blame the artist for things like this because it's not their job to know historically everything. This was obviously well before JK was born, and if JK debuted or trained since he was like 13 or 14 or potentially a little bit younger, then he would not have had this historic knowledge of a lot of these things. I don't know if he was taken out of school entirely, but we can't expect that he's getting the same education as someone who is maybe a historian or maybe like the rest of us, right? Because he would have been touring or training 9-10 hours a day while being like 12, 13, 14, right? He likely wouldn't be getting the same historic education that we're getting. A lot of people have since defended him and said that he does not deserve this and he doesn't need to apologize and that the community is going to move forward and forget about this. For me personally, I think that that is totally something that all of us can do, and a mistake is a mistake. He addressed it, he apologized, and we can move forward, and I would say this for anyone, not just him. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thank you to this lovely comment right here. Love you, bye.